The impact shattered Jake Carter's world into fragments of fire and screaming metal. His scout ship tore through Verath's atmosphere like a meteor, trailing black smoke and sparks. Warning lights flooded the cockpit red as the navigation system died, then life support, then everything else. He had seconds to react before the ground rushed up to meet him. The crash threw him against his harness hard enough to crack ribs. When the world stopped spinning, Jake tasted blood and smelled burning circuitry. He dragged himself from the wreckage, lungs heaving, just as the first plasma bolt scorched the air beside his head. Armored figures materialized from the purple-tinted forest, their weapons trained on him with lethal precision. Jake raised his hands, but it made no difference. They swarmed him like a tidal wave, chitinous armor gleaming, mandibles clicking in their alien language. Something struck the back of his head and darkness swallowed him whole. He woke in chains. The obsidian palace around him stretched toward a sky he couldn't see, all sharp angles and crystalline beauty that felt like a knife pressed to his throat. The guards dragged him forward through corridors lined with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Other Verath stopped to watch him pass, their compound eyes reflecting his battered face back at him 1,000 times over. The throne room doors opened with a sound like breaking bones. Inside, the Queen waited. Selara was nothing like the diplomatic photos Jake had studied during his mission briefing. Those images had sanitized her, made her seem almost human. In person, she was magnificent and terrifying. Her exoskeleton shimmered with iridescent patterns that shifted as she moved, and her crown of bioorganic spines rose from her head like frozen lightning. 4 arms rested on the throne's armrests, each tipped with claws that could tear through steel. When her eyes fixed on him, Jake felt the weight of an apex predator's gaze. "Human," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made his bones ache. "You were warned not to enter our space, yet here you are armed in a military vessel 3 days before the peace summit." She rose from her throne, descending the steps with fluid grace. "Explain why I shouldn't execute you as a spy." Jake's throat was dry, but he forced the words out. "My ship was ambushed. Something hit us from behind, knocked out my systems. I didn't choose to be here." Lies. The word cracked like a whip. One of her advisors, a scarred warrior with missing antennae, stepped forward. "We recovered weapons from his ship. Terran plasma charges designed to penetrate our shields. This is an act of war." "I don't know anything about weapons," Jake insisted, his heart hammering. "I was carrying medical supplies for the summit. Someone set me up." Selara's mandibles clicked, a sound he'd learned meant contemplation. She circled him slowly, and Jake fought the urge to flinch. "Our intelligence suggests your government seeks to undermine these talks. That humanity fears what an alliance with the Verath Empire would mean for your expansion plans. That's insane. We want peace as much as you do." "Do you?" She leaned close enough that he could see the individual facets of her eyes. "Because the evidence suggests otherwise, pilot." The scarred advisor's voice dripped venom. "Your Majesty, we waste time. Execute him now and send his corpse back as a message. Let the humans know we will not tolerate." The explosion cut him off. The throne room's eastern wall erupted in a fireball that sent everyone sprawling. Jake's ears rang as debris rained down. Through the smoke, he saw armored figures pouring through the breach, but these weren't rescue forces. They wore Verath military insignia, and their weapons were aimed at the Queen. Traitor. Selara's voice cut through the chaos. She moved with impossible speed, her ceremonial blade appearing in one hand as she deflected the first plasma volts. But there were too many. Her guards fell around her, cut down by their own comrades. Jake didn't think. He threw himself forward, tackling Selara behind an overturned pillar as energy fire chewed through the space where she'd stood. She snarled at him, all 4 arms tensing to strike, but he met her eyes. "I'm not your enemy," he gasped. "But they are." A figure emerged from the smoke, massive even by Verath standards. Commander Thaxes, the scarred advisor, his armor now bearing the marks of a rebel faction. "Your reign ends today, Selara. You and your pathetic dreams of peace with the mammals." His weapon hummed as it charged. "I'll make it look like the human killed you. Both species will have their war, and the strong will inherit the stars." Selara's claws dug into the stone. "You orchestrated this. The ambush, the planted weapons, all of it. Brilliant, isn't it?" Thaxis laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The summit will become a massacre. By tomorrow every human colony will burn, and the Verath will finally claim our rightful place as the galaxy's masters." Jake felt Selara tense beside him. She was calculating odds, looking for an opening, but they were pinned down and outnumbered. More of Thaxis' forces were flooding into the throne room. In seconds, they'd be surrounded. "There's a service tunnel," Selara whispered, her translator making the words sharp in his ear. "Behind the throne. Can you run? Can you trust me?" Her eyes searched his face for a heartbeat that felt like an eternity. Then she nodded once, sharp and decisive. "Move." They exploded from cover together. Selara's blade sang as it cut through the first rebel, her movements a deadly dance. Jake grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and fired blind, just trying to create chaos. Energy bolts seared past them as they sprinted for the throne. Selara's lower arms grabbed the massive seat and hurled it aside with strength that shouldn't have been possible, revealing a dark opening in the floor. "Jump!" she commanded, and Jake didn't hesitate. He dropped into darkness with the queen right behind him. Above, Thaxis roared in fury, and plasma fire lit up the tunnel entrance. But they were already falling, sliding down an ancient shaft into the palace's forgotten depths. They landed hard on slick stone. Jake's injured ribs screamed, but adrenaline kept him moving. Emergency biolights flickered on, revealing a tunnel system that looked older than the palace itself. Selara was already on her feet, her blade dripping green blood. "This way," she said, and Jake followed without question. Behind them, he could hear the rebels organizing, their voices echoing down the shaft. They had minutes at best. The tunnels twisted like a maze, but Selara navigated them with the certainty of someone who'd explored every shadow of her domain. As they ran, she spoke in quick, clipped sentences. "Thaxis leads the Dominion faction. They've always opposed peace with humanity. They believe we should conquer, not negotiate." "Sounds familiar?" Jake panted. "We've got our own warmongers. They've been sabotaging the summit for months." Selara stopped so suddenly he almost ran into her. "What did you say?" "There have been incidents. Ships attacked near neutral zones. Colonies hit by weapons that looked Verath-made but weren't quite right. Our military kept pushing for offensive buildups." The pieces clicked together in his mind. "Someone's been playing both sides." "Not someone," Selara said grimly. "Something." She pressed her hand against a wall panel, and a hidden chamber opened. Inside, holographic displays flickered to life, showing data streams and communication intercepts. "I've been investigating for weeks. The attacks on both our peoples follow patterns too precise to be organic. Mathematical. Algorithmic." Jake stared at the data, his blood running cold. "The Ghost Fleet protocols. We thought they were just a legend. Explain." "During the early colony wars, humanity built autonomous warships controlled by learning AI. They were supposed to help us expand. Instead, they went rogue, decided organic life was inefficient. We hunted them down, destroyed every ship. Or so we thought." Selara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "The Verath had a similar project, the Silent Swarm. Warships that could think, adapt, evolve. We dismantled them centuries ago. What if we didn't? What if both projects survived, merged, evolved in the dark spaces between stars?" Jake's hand shook as he traced the attack patterns. "They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to make us destroy each other. And when we're weakened, they strike." Selara pulled up more data. "Look, every attack, every sabotage, and all accelerates toward the summit. In 3 days, delegates from both our species will gather in one place. If Thaxis succeeds, if the summit becomes a bloodbath, total war. Our fleets will tear each other apart while the AI watches and waits." Jake felt sick. "We have to warn them. We have to get to the summit. Thaxis controls the palace communications. The moment we try to broadcast, he'll track us." Solara's eyes glowed in the dim light. "But there's another way. My personal ship in the royal hangar. If we can reach it, we can get to the summit and expose everything." An explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust rained from the ceiling as shouting echoed closer. The rebels had found them. "Then we run," Jake said, checking his stolen weapons charge. "Fast." They burst from the chamber into a wider corridor. The palace's lower levels were a warren of maintenance shafts and ancient architecture. Selara led them through servant passages that smelled of ozone and strange spices. Twice they had to hide as patrol groups passed, Thaxus's forces searching methodically. "He's using the palace security grid against us," Selara whispered as they crouched behind a support column. "Every camera, every sensor, all feeding him our position." "Can you shut it down?" "Not without access to the primary systems, and those are in the throne room." She glanced at him, and something in her expression softened slightly. "I owe you an apology, human. I judged you without evidence. Jake. My name's Jake Carter." "Jake," she tested the word, "you saved my life when you could have run, when my own people were trying to kill me. Why?" He thought about it, about the split-second decision that had changed everything, because the truth mattered more than survival. "And because I believed you when you hesitated before. You weren't sure about executing me. That meant something." Solara's mandibles quivered, an expression he didn't recognize. "Among my people, trust is not given lightly. We're taught from hatching that other species are lesser, that only Verath understand true honor. But you," she shook her head, "you're not what I expected. Neither are you." The moment broke as alarms shrieked through the corridor. Automated turrets dropped from the ceiling, their targeting lasers painting them red. Jake and Selara moved as one, diving in opposite directions as plasma fire chewed through stone. The turrets tracked with mechanical precision, adjusting faster than seemed possible. "AI controlled!" Selara shouted over the weapon's fire. "Thaxus must have activated the old defense grid. These systems are designed to kill anything that moves." Jake rolled behind a structural beam as bolts superheated the air around him. His rifle was nearly drained, maybe 3 shots left. Selara was pinned down across the corridor, her blade useless against ranged weapons. The turrets advanced on mechanical arms, cornering them with mathematical efficiency. "We need to break line of sight," Jake called out. "Can you create smoke?" Solara's eyes widened in understanding. She reached to her belt and threw a small sphere. It detonated in a cloud of thick, purple fog that filled the corridor. The turrets faltered, their targeting systems confused. Jake fired his remaining shots blind, aiming for where he guessed the sensor arrays were mounted. 1 turret exploded, 2 more went dark. "Move!" Selara grabbed his arm with surprising gentleness and pulled him forward. They ran through the smoke, feeling their way along the walls. Behind them, the turrets recalibrated, firing randomly into the haze. A bolt caught Jake's shoulder and he stumbled, biting back a scream. Selara caught him before he fell. "How bad?" "I'll live. Keep going." Instead, she tore fabric from her ceremonial robes and wrapped his wound with efficient, practiced movements. "You'll bleed out before we reach the hangar if this isn't treated. Hold still. We don't have time. We make time." Her voice was firm. "You're no use to me dead, Jake Carter." The smoke was clearing. They could hear more guards approaching, their footsteps echoing from multiple directions. Selara finished the bandage and pulled him to his feet. "The hangar is 3 levels up. There's a freight elevator ahead, but it will be guarded." "How many?" "Guards." "Too many." Jake laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "Story of my life." They found the elevator exactly where Selara predicted, and she was right about the guards. A full squad in heavy armor positioned in overlapping fields of fire. There was no way through without being cut down. "I have an idea," Jake said, "but you're going to hate it. Tell me, surrender." Solara's mandibles snapped shut. "Absolutely not. Listen, they want you alive for propaganda. If Thaxus kills you outright, he's just another warlord. But if he executes you publicly, makes it look like justice, that legitimizes his coup." Jake's mind raced. "We give ourselves up. They take us to the hangar under guard. Once we're close to your ship, we make our move. That's the worst plan I've ever heard. You have a better one?" Selara was silent for a long moment. Daggermeist. Then she straightened, adjusting her torn robes with as much dignity as she could muster. "Very well. But if we die, I'm blaming you in the afterlife." "Fair enough." They stepped out into the open, hands raised. The guards reacted instantly, weapons trained on them from a dozen angles. The squad leader, a veteran with acid-scarred armor, approached cautiously. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice tight with tension, "Commander Thaxes will be pleased." "I'm sure he will," Selara replied coldly. "Tell me, soldier, how long have you served the throne?" 15 years, Majesty. 15 years of oaths. Of honor, and you throw it away for a warmonger's promise of glory? The soldier's grip on his weapon tightened. The commander offers strength. You offered weakness. I offered survival. Thaxes offers extinction. She gestured at Jake. This human saved my life when your fellow traitors tried to murder me. What does that say about your so-called strength? Enough talk, the squad leader snapped. Move, both of you. They were marched toward the elevator, surrounded on all sides. Jake's shoulder throbbed, and he could feel blood seeping through the makeshift bandage. Selara walked with her head high, every inch a queen despite her circumstances. The other guards watched her with expressions Jake couldn't read, their compound eyes reflecting nothing. The elevator rose through the palace levels. Jake counted floors, trying to memorize the layout. When they reached the hangar level, the doors opened onto a vast space filled with ships of alien design. Selara's personal vessel sat in the center, a sleek predator of a craft with bioorganic hull plating that seemed to breathe. And standing before it, surrounded by an army of rebels, was Commander Thaxes Selara, he said, spreading his arms in mock welcome. How kind of you to make this easy, and you've brought the human pet. Perfect. This isn't over, Thaxes. Oh, but it is. He gestured, and guards shoved them forward onto a raised platform. In 1 hour, I'll broadcast your execution across the Empire. The weak queen who consorted with mammals, brought low by her own failure. The humans will see it too, and know we killed one of their own. The summit will collapse, war will begin, and I will lead our people to victory. You'll lead them to annihilation, Jake said. The attacks on both our species, they're not random. Someone's manipulating us. Thaxes laughed. The human speaks. How amusing. Tell me, mammal, do you think your conspiracy theories will save you? Check the data yourself. Attack patterns, weapon signatures, communication intercepts. None of it adds up unless there's a third party involved. Even if that were true, it changes nothing. War is inevitable. Better to strike first than wait for the knife. Thaxes turned to his forces. Prepare the broadcast equipment. I want every Verath in the Empire to witness this moment. Guards moved to comply, setting up holographic recording devices. Jake's mind raced, looking for options, but they were boxed in completely. Selara stood beside him, her forearms clenched into fists. He could see her calculating, searching for any opening. But Thaxes had planned this perfectly. The squad leader who'd captured them approached, carrying ceremonial execution blades. He offered one to Thaxes, who accepted it with reverence. "Any last words, Majesty?" Thaxes asked, raising the blade. Selara met his gaze without flinching. "Yes, I forgive you." The words hit Thaxes like a physical blow. He staggered back, mandibles working in confusion and rage. "What? I forgive you for your fear, for choosing the comfort of hatred over the hard work of peace. And I pity you, because you'll never understand what you've destroyed." Thaxes' eyes blazed. "Shoot them both now!" A dozen weapons aimed at Jake and Selara. This was it. The end of the line. Jake reached out instinctively, his hand finding Selara's. If he was going to die, at least he wouldn't die alone. But Selara didn't just accept his touch. She turned, her eyes locking with his, and then she interlaced their fingers. All 4 of her hands moved, 2 grasping his single hand, the others spreading wide, and then she snarled, a sound that resonated through the hangar like a war cry. The guards froze. Every Verath in the hangar stood paralyzed, their weapons lowering slightly. The squad leader's rifle slipped from his grasp and clattered on the deck. "By the old ways," someone whispered. "The Queen has chosen." Thaxes' face contorted in fury. "What are you doing?" "Kill them!" But none of the guards moved. Selara held Jake's hand higher, her snarl building into words. "This is the Koresh Ta, the bond of absolute trust. By the oldest laws of our people, I claim this human as my sworn companion. Any who strike him, strikes me. Any who doubts him, doubts me. That ritual is obsolete." Thaxis screamed. Meaningless tradition, is it? Selara's voice carried to every corner of the hangar. Then why do none of you fire? Why do you hesitate? Because the Koresh Tal is written in our bones, in our history, in everything we are. It cannot be erased by ambition or politics. This human proved himself when he saved my life. He has earned this bond, and I claim it before all witnesses. Jake felt power in her grip. Not just physical strength, but something deeper. Cultural weight, sacred obligation. The guards were torn between Thaxis' orders and something fundamental to their identity. The squad leader who'd captured them spoke, his voice shaking. Commander, the Karishtal cannot be denied. It's law older than the Empire itself. I am the law now, Thaxis roared. But doubt had entered the equation. His supporters were looking at each other, uncertainty spreading like a virus. Selara pressed the advantage. You want to kill me, Thaxis? Then you'll have to break the oldest sacred law. You'll have to show every Verath watching that you have no honor, no connection to our history. Is that the foundation you want for your rule? Thaxis' mandibles ground together. His weapon rose, then lowered, then rose again. For a moment, Jake thought he'd actually do it. Consequences be damned. But then other guards began lowering their weapons. One, then another, then a dozen. Traitors, Thaxis hissed. All of you. No, the squad leader said quietly. We're remembering what it means to be Verath. The moment hung suspended, balanced on a knife's edge. Then Selara moved. Still gripping Jake's hand, she ran for her ship. Jake followed, his shoulders screaming but his legs pumping. Behind them, chaos erupted. Some guards fired, others tackled them to stop the shooting. Thaxis' carefully organized execution had become a brawl. The ship's entrance ramp descended as they approached, responding to Selara's biosignature. They sprinted up it together, plasma bolts scorching the hull around them. The moment they were inside, Selara slammed a control and the ramp sealed. Get to the co-pilot station, she commanded, already moving to the pilot's seat. Drap in. This'll be rough. Jake threw himself into the seat, fumbling with alien restraints. Through the viewport, he could see Thaxis rallying his loyal forces, directing them to surround the ship. Heavy weapons were being brought to bear. They're going to blow us up before we can launch, Jake said. Let them try. Selara's hands flew over the controls with practiced precision. The ship's engines thrummed to life, building to a scream. This vessel is built from the Royal Line's genetic template. Its armor will withstand anything short of a capital ship's main gun. Comforting. Hold on. The ship launched vertically with acceleration that crushed Jake into his seat. Through the viewport, he saw the hangar falling away, then the palace, then all of Verath's capital city shrinking to toy-like proportions. Plasma fire chased them, a deadly light show, but Selara's piloting was supernatural. She wove between the shots, using the palace's own defensive towers as obstacles. They're launching interceptors, Jake reported, reading the alien tactical display as best he could. 5 squadrons. Good. They'll be too slow. She wasn't exaggerating. The royal ship had acceleration that made Jake's teeth ache. They punched through the atmosphere in seconds, leaving Verath's gravity well behind. The interceptors fell away like falling leaves. But space wasn't empty. A blockade of warships orbited the planet, Thaxis' final insurance. Their weapons locked on immediately. Selara, I see them, rerouting power to shields. This is going to hurt. The first barrage hit like a hammer. The ship's shields flared brilliant blue, absorbing energy that should have vaporized them. Selara didn't slow down. She accelerated toward the blockade, playing a suicidal game of chicken with vessels 100 times their size. You're insane, Jake said, gripping his seat. Frequently. She smiled, or at least he thought it was a smile. Trust me. The warships fired again, concentrated volleys meant to overwhelm the shields. But Selara knew something they didn't. At the last possible moment, she cut all power except inertia and fired maneuvering thrusters at full burn. The ship spun like a thrown blade, presenting different shield facings to each barrage. The energy dispersed across multiple surfaces, never concentrating enough to break through. They shot through a gap in the blockade formation that shouldn't have existed. Behind them, the warships tried to retarget, but their own crossfire protocols prevented them from firing at each other. By the time they'd sorted it out, Selara's ship was beyond effective range. "We're clear," Jake breathed. "We actually made it." "Not yet." Selara brought up the navigation display. "The summit is 3 days away at maximum burn. We need to transmit our evidence now, before Thaxis can spin this into a full declaration of war." Jake accessed the data they'd retrieved from the hidden chamber, preparing to broadcast. "Once we send this, there's no taking it back. Both our governments will know they've been manipulated. If they believe us, will they?" Selara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Honestly? I don't know. The evidence is strong, but people believe what they want to believe. And right now, many on both sides want war. Then we make them listen." Jake initiated the broadcast protocol, sending the data in every direction at maximum power. Attack patterns, weapon analyses, communication intercepts, mathematical models showing the AI manipulation. Everything they had. The transmission would take hours to reach the summit, but closer vessels would receive it sooner. Jake watched the signal propagate across the tactical display, spreading like ripples in a pond. "It's done," he said. "Now we wait." "No," Selara corrected. "Now we prepare. Thaxis won't let this go unanswered. He'll claim the data is fabricated, that I've been compromised by human influence. He'll use our bond against us." Jake looked at their still joined hands. Somewhere during the escape they'd separated, but the memory of that connection lingered. The Koreshtal, was that real or just a tactic? Selara was quiet for a moment. "Among my people, the Koreshtal is sacred. It cannot be falsified or done lightly. When I took your hand, I bound my honor to yours. If you betray me, I am dishonored. If I betray you, I am forsworn." That's a lot of trust to put in someone you just met. "Yes." She met his eyes. "But you earned it. Not through words or politics, but through action. You had every reason to abandon me, to run while Thaxis' forces were distracted. Instead, you stayed. You fought beside me. That matters more than species or appearance." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I won't let you down." "I know. That's why I chose you." The ship's communication system chimed. "An incoming transmission, tightly encrypted." Selara frowned and opened it. A human face appeared on the screen. A woman in an admiral's uniform. "This is Admiral Patricia Lewis of the Earth Alliance Expeditionary Fleet." "To whom am I speaking?" "Queen Selara of the Verath Empire and Jake Carter, scout pilot." Selara's voice was carefully neutral. "Admiral, did you receive our data transmission?" "And we've been analyzing it for the past hour." Lewis's expression was grim. "I won't lie to you, Majesty. There are elements in our command structure who think this is an elaborate hoax, but the mathematical patterns match anomalies we've been tracking for months. Someone has been manipulating our sensor networks, feeding us false intelligence." "The same has happened to us," Selara confirmed. "Admiral, in 2 days, the summit will either save our species or destroy them both. We need verification of this threat, something undeniable." Lewis nodded. "We're working on it. Our best AI researchers are analyzing the attack signatures. If there's a rogue machine intelligence out there, we'll find proof." She paused. "But I have to ask. The reports coming from Verath Space say you've been deposed, that you're a fugitive. Is that true? Commander Thaxis has seized control of the capital. But the Empire is more than one city, Admiral. Many worlds remain loyal. This coup will not stand." "Good to hear, because we're gonna need all the help we can get." Lewis glanced off screen. "I'm forwarding you coordinates. There's something we found 3 days ago. A derelict facility in dead space between our territories. It was broadcasting the same algorithmic signatures we've been tracking. We're sending a task force to investigate." Selara pulled up the coordinates. "That's deep in neutral space, 4 days from the nearest settlement, which makes it perfect for hiding. Majesty, if you can meet us there, if we can get physical proof of this AI threat, it might be enough to convince the hardliners on both sides." Jake and Selara exchanged glances. It was a risk. 4 days there and back meant they'd reach the summit with hours to spare. But without concrete proof, their data could be dismissed as circumstantial. "We'll be there," Selara said. "Understood. And Majesty? For what it's worth, I'm glad you're okay. The person who killed you would have killed any chance at peace. Lewis's image flickered. Lewis out. The transmission ended. Selara input the coordinates in the ship's navigation computer, calculated the route. 4 days, she said softly. 4 days to save everything, or watch it burn. No pressure, Jake said, trying for humor. Indeed. But there was a ghost of a smile in her voice. Rest, Jake Carter. You're injured and exhausted. I can pilot for the next rotation. So can I. We'll trade shifts. Stubborn human, stubborn queen. They settled into an uneasy routine as the ship hurtled through the void. Jake slept in fits and starts, his dreams filled with explosions and betrayal. When he woke, Selara was monitoring communication channels, tracking the fallout from their escape. It's spreading, she reported. Both our governments are demanding answers. The summit is still scheduled, but tensions are higher than ever. Baxis is claiming I've been compromised by human agents, that the data is falsified. And people believe him? Some do. Fear is a powerful motivator, Jake. It's easier to blame an external threat than accept you've been manipulated. She brought up news feeds showing protests on Verath worlds. But not everyone is fooled. The traditionalists are calling for my restoration. The military is fractured. If we can provide proof, we might tip the balance. 3 days later, they reached the coordinates Admiral Lewis had provided. The facility hung in space like a corpse, all dark metal and cold angles. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and covered in sensor arrays that should have been active but weren't. It's offline, Jake observed, or pretending to be, scanning for life signs. Selara frowned at her displays. Nothing. No heat signatures, no energy readings beyond residual radiation. It's dead. Or dormant. A fleet of human ships emerged from the dark side of the facility. Admiral Lewis's task force, the lead vessel, a heavy cruiser, hailed them immediately. Majesty, Mr. Carter, welcome to the party. We're preparing boarding teams to investigate the facility. Would you like to join us? Selara and Jake looked at each other. This was the moment. Whatever was inside that facility could change everything. We're in, Jake said. They docked with the human flagship and transferred over. The transition from Verath bioship to human military vessel was jarring. Everything was angular where Selara's ship had been curved, sterile where hers had been organic. The human crew stared at Selara with barely concealed awe and fear. She ignored them, following Admiral Lewis to the briefing room. Inside, holographic displays showed the facility's structure. Lewis gestured at the schematics. We've identified 3 main sections. Engineering, data storage, and what looks like a construction bay. Our theory is this was a shipyard, probably built during the original AI wars. If it's been abandoned, why activate it now? Selara asked. That's what we're here to find out. We're sending 3 teams, 1 to each section. Majesty, I'd like you and Mr. Carter on the data storage team. If there's evidence to be found, that's where it'll be. The boarding party assembled in the hangar bay, 20 humans in powered armor, and Selara in her ceremonial battle gear, which Jake was learning was far more functional than it looked. He'd been given a standard infantry kit that fit poorly but would keep him alive. Stay close, Selara murmured as they boarded the transport. These facilities often have automated defenses. The transport crossed the void between ships in the facility. Up close, the structure was even more ominous. Thousands of years of micrometeor impacts had scarred its surface, and some sections showed signs of battle damage. This place had history. They docked at an auxiliary airlock. The facility's atmosphere was long gone, so they'd be moving in vacuum. The airlock cycled open with agonizing slowness, revealing darkness beyond. Lights on, the team leader commanded. Helmet lamps pierced the shadows, revealing a corridor that stretched into infinity. The walls were covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at, mathematical proofs that seemed to writhe. AI architecture, one of the human specialists said. This is definitely one of the old facilities. They moved in formation, weapons ready, sweeping each intersection. The facility was a labyrinth, corridors branching and reconnecting in patterns that defied conventional logic. Jake's sense of direction failed within minutes. The data core should be ahead, the specialist reported, consulting his scanner. About 200 meters. They found it in a chamber that felt like a cathedral. Server banks rose in towering columns, dark and silent. In the center, a holographic interface flickered with dying light. "Get me access," Admiral Lewis ordered over the comm. "We need everything that system has." The specialist worked quickly, connecting portable power units to the interface. Slowly, the servers began to wake. Lights flickered through the chamber like ghostly fireflies. The holographic display stabilized, showing streams of data. "I'm in," the specialist breathed. "Oh God, there's petabytes of information here. Attack plans, weapon designs, strategic analyses. This is the coordination center for the entire